Hi, I'm Liz Parker Kuhn, Senior Editor, Candy Industry Magazine. Today we are talking to Paul Weaver, Head of Cannabis for the Boston Beer Company. Thanks for being here today with us.
Oh, Liz, thanks for having me.
So, for my first question, what are some consumer trends and behaviors in the cannabis candy category?
Uh, well, there's some macro trends that are like industry wide, and then there are some consumer trends that are like product and flavor in particular. So, from a macro perspective, it's a very, very interesting category, THC gummies. In many ways, it is a commodity. It's kind of become commoditized. Cheapest bang for buck is typically the best selling products, and you see by far the best selling products are often, sadly, the cheapest products. So that's kind of the macro trends, and there is this emerging momentum towards creating a more premium, elevated, less commodity-driven class of gummies, which is what Boston Beer Company is trying to champion with the launch of our Emerald Hour gummies. Now, when you get into the non-commodity gummies, like the things that cost a little bit extra and have a little bit more features, what are the things that really matter? So there's like flavor and effect. In the flavor camp, it's probably the same trends you're seeing in overall confectionery. A lot of emphasis on sour, a lot of emphasis on natural ingredients. There is this movement in towards vegan, which suggests that you're using pectin, not gelatin, in your gummies. So a lot of the gummies that you see in dispensaries are pectin based, meaning it's a much more like a clean bite chew as opposed to like the stretchy chew that you get from a gelatin gummy. And then in the effects world, okay, so that's the flavor. And then the effects of the gummy, there's a lot of fun new innovation with respect to how we can help create a different type of edible high. So whether that's using what they call full spectrum extracts, so where they extract more of the cannabis plant as opposed to just isolating the THC, which gives you, in theory, a more well-rounded and enjoyable experience. There's also a movement towards using different types of emulsions to create a faster onset. You know, a typical gummy might take 45 minutes before you feel an effect, but if you can introduce some fancy food science, perhaps you can accelerate that. So the onset might be 10 minutes or 20 minutes. So a little bit of an effort towards creating a more full spectrum experience, and then some innovation towards more faster, rapid onset.
Okay, that makes sense. And then you just talked about this a little bit, but can you talk about trending flavors, ingredients, buying and consumption occasions, things like that?
Um, sure. So, like what ingredients we're using or what occasions we're targeting?
Both would be fine, actually.
Yeah, sure. So, our brand that we have a couple brands that we make beverages, cannabis infused beverages in Canada. We have a product line called Teapot, which is a line of cannabis infused iced tea. And then we have a cocktail brand called Emerald Hour, which makes non-alcoholic Cali sober cocktails and now gummies. So, Emerald Hour cocktail gummies is our first product line. And the first thing that you'll notice, that I'm holding one here, about Emerald Hour is just how small it is. So that's my head for scale here. And in a package of Emerald Hour gummies is just two of these, just two small emerald shaped gummies. Now, this is a peach Bellini flavored gummy. So the goal is to taste like a peach Bellini. So it has natural peach flavor. We use a little bit of dry grape flavor in to create the flavor of the champagne, of course. Obviously, there's no carbonation in this, so there's no bubbles. It's pectin based, so it's again vegan. And we use both live rosin, which is a solventless full spectrum cannabis input, which I mentioned earlier. But also we use something very fancy called cannabis diamonds, which is another elevated form of cannabis input. So it's got a great weed, it's got really great ingredients, but it's packaged in very person pocket friendly small containers. And so that's how we make it. And then like where it's intended to be consumed, well, our consumers, the reason we created Emerald Hour is for those who prefer cannabis over alcohol. So it's designed to be discreet, it's designed to be pocket friendly. And then there's occasions when everyone else is consuming alcohol, but you prefer to just consume soft drinks or mocktails or water, but you'd like to still have an enjoyable experience with an adult product. That's the occasion we're going for with Emerald Hour. So any occasion where alcohol is king, but you want to still feel a buzz, That's kind of what Emerald Hour can offer is a means of still delivering an adult experience while still allowing you to live your Cali sober lifestyle.
Okay. That's an interesting idea. I've heard the term Cali sober before. Can you define it just in case
Yeah,
I'm
it's got a
wrong?
few different definitions, and I shouldn't use it shorthand. I'm sure someone has the trademark on it. No, Cali sober is the shorthand of it is someone who consumes cannabis instead of alcohol. So it's not someone who is looking for a truly sober experience or is absolutely dry or truly abstaining from any sort of recreational consumption, but they just prefer cannabis over alcohol. So Cali sober being the kind of cheeky way of evoking that.
Okay. That makes sense. And then how does the Boston Beer Company, specifically your Emerald Hour Gummies brand, work to keep up with current consumer interests?
Um, we do a lot of market research, which is kind of fun in cannabis, of course. I mean, we do try and see what's out there. We do try and pay attention to different markets. Canada, as a regulated market, is has been legal for going on 6 years now. They've had 6 years? No, going on 8 years now. They've had legal cannabis in Canada. But there are, of course, markets like Colorado and California that have had legal access to edibles for longer than that. So we do a lot of research in terms of what's moving and selling and what's new in every legal regulated cannabis edible market. We do a little bit of recon in terms of what's moving the needle in the grocery aisle and what's selling best. We've seen, for example, long pull strips, like stripped long versions of gummies or extra sour variations, things that are, again, macro trends that affect all of the food industry, not just cannabis. But honestly, the key for us, the gatekeeper for information in terms of tweaking and refining our brand is what's called the bud tender. The bud tender is the person working behind the counter at a dispensary that is interacting with consumers every day. They're You're almost forced to interact with a bud tender. There's no self checkout in cannabis. So even if you want to just get your product and go, you still have to have 5 seconds of conversation with a bud tender. Those 5 seconds can turn into 15 seconds of very, very insightful conversation. So we do a lot of bud tender events. We do a lot of bud tender surveys. We bring in bud tenders to our samplings. We try to get them to give us their point of view because even if they don't represent a macro consumer trend, they certainly are a trusted Sherpa for someone who's looking to be guided along in their experience. So even if it's not the most subjective or objective way of getting the information, winning the hearts and minds of bud tenders is always a good strategy.
Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. And then similar to that, how did you come up with the flavors for the first products?
Well, everything we do with Emerald Hour is linked to classic cocktails because we are trying to really draw that line as much as we can with this is intended to replace this. So in our drink space, for example, we go with classic drinks and what tastes good with the cannabis. So we've got a margarita, we've got a Cosmo, a Moscow Mule, a mojito. All of those are classic cocktails, easy to understand, and most importantly, when you introduce these full spectrum cannabis inputs, there is taste. It does taste like weed. The weed taste is embraced and naturally blends with the cocktail flavor versus combats with it. When we launched our first gummy product, we wanted to do something that was not repeated on the drink space, but also suggested kind of a confectionery, almost dessert space. So that's why we leaned with our peach Bellini. So again, a classic cocktail style, this one kind of in the dessert space. But also, and importantly, the flavor itself doesn't clash with the cannabis. So it can still be a great tasting experience holistically.
Okay, that makes sense. And then have you been seeing any notable innovations in cannabis candy lately?
Um, there's been a lot of different stuff. You see Gushers. I've seen some Gushers stuff. I'm sure it's not called Gushers, but whatever the Gushers equivalent is. Um, One product I'm really fascinated by is a product I noticed in Las Vegas in the Nevada dispensaries called Flight Bites, which is designed to be this insanely elevated gummy. It might be, I don't even know, maybe a $20 gummy, and it's got bits of nerds on it, or it might have bits of chocolate covered pretzels on it, or something like tons of random stuff. And it cues the occasion because it's really meant for you to, I assume, consume right before you get into the security line, so that if you're anxious about flying, you have kind of a flight bite before you get on there. So it's really elevated. It justifies a premium price point, but it really hammers home an occasion where someone is looking to have an anxious-free flight. So I really like that correlation of like justifying a non-commodity price point and then really hammering home an occasion. Um, some of the stuff that we're also seeing is innovation towards other confectionery formats that are not just gummies. Mints are very popular these days, lozenges, a little bit towards like drink powders and drink drops, but gummies is still king. Um, the fun thing about THC innovation in edibles is you can really apply this oil to anything. And we found ways to strip out most of the taste so it can taste like anything. It's really just a question of which can get critical mass in a manufacturing and sales perspective to justify its existence, because you're not selling it to, 10,000 convenience stores. You might be selling it to 1,000 dispensaries. So that the marketplace is just a little bit smaller and you have to really get critical mass. It does hinder like radical funky innovation that you sometimes see in candy, but there's still lots of fun stuff you can do.
Okay. Flight Bites is a fun name too, so that was
Yeah, I thought it
pretty
was cool. Yeah, I wish I'd thought
catchy
of it.
on the shelves. So my last question for you is, and I think I already know the answer to this, was going to be, do you have any recent cannabis candy launches to share? But Emerald Hour is your most recent, I assume. And then do you have any new like flavors or other products launching this year?
Yeah, I mean, some of this is up to the discretion of the provincial governments to decide what new flavors of ours they want to accept. Our flagship gummy SKU is our Peach Bellini gummy, and that's available in about 250, 300 dispensaries across Canada right now and rising. So if you find yourself in Canada, in particular Ontario or Alberta, and you'd like to try one of our gummies, just pop into a dispensary and ask for it. So that's our newest innovation. We have a few ideas in the pipeline that we'll be launching over the summer. We'd love to get a margarita gummy out the door at some point this year. Maybe a Cosmo gummy as well. So we're working on more of these innovations, and it's just the start. I think what's really cool about what I think we're doing is we're a 40-year-old craft beer company, and our first entrance into cannabis was making, of course, cannabis infused beverages, and we're continuing to see success extending what we do into cannabis drinks. This is a new frontier for us, launching gummies. And I think what it speaks to is we're innovators, we're product developers, and the ability to make something taste great and deliver a great experience can transcend just beverages. And so far, so good. We really like what we're doing with our Emerald Hour gummy line, and we can't wait to continue to launch new flavors in Canada.
Okay, sounds good. I'll have to keep an eye out for any new flavor extensions.
Are
And
you based in, you've been based in Detroit? Just hop over,
was gonna say
just go in the
not
tunnel.
too far. Go in the tunnel, go in the bridge, and then not too far yet. So, well, that is all the time we have for today, but thanks again for being here with us.
Liz, thank you for having me.